Even though it is 10 till 11 now, 11, I understand it is 4 o'clock. And thank you, everyone, for coming to the September Finance Committee meeting of the City Council of Winston-Salem. Without objection, we'll take the consent items first. Councilmember Light would like to pull C3 and C4A. Are there any other items that anyone would like to pull for discussion or whatever?
Move approval on the balance.
Is there a second? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That carries unanimously. We'll go to item C3, please.
Resolution authorizing the City of Winston-Salem to accept a donation of improvements to the Washington Park Dog Park.
Councilmember Light?
Mr. Grant could tell us, my main question is, where in the existing dog park will this apportioned off area be? Or in relation to?
Yes. Good afternoon.
Okay.
This particular donation will allow the dog park to be separated into two, a small and a large. The small dog park will be approximately half an acre, and the large dog park will end up being an acre. If you basically come into the dog park as it currently is constructed, the small dog park will be to the left, the larger dog park will be towards the right, heading towards Broad Street. There's a cove of trees there, and you will be able to maintain enough canopy shade for both areas. So it's kind of where the main entrance is now. Just slightly to the left of that would be the small dog park portion.
I think that's great, and I do want to thank the Murphys for donating the fencing and everything. I think that's great. So, thank you, Keith. I'll move.
Okay.
Second, and
Okay, Councilmember.
I would also thank you too. I have a 12-pound dog and a 90-pound dog, so I have one of each. So I thank you as well. We're a dog family, have been for forever, and I thank you for your support and generosity with the city.
Any other questions or comments?
I need to make a comment. Anytime anyone gives us something as a city, I always say thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That carries unanimously. Thank you. Thank you to you. Next item is C4A.
Resolution approving a contract for personal computer equipment from NWN Corporation in the amount of $179,678.45.
Okay, Councilmember Light, this is yours as well.
Yes. Thank you, Dennis. Why on earth is the North Carolina State contract paying $100,000 more than either of the two other contracts? They just throwing our money away?
I hope they don't pay that much. Quite frankly, I'm not sure. The process is that the state, on behalf of local governments and other state agencies, bids a large number of items to many different vendors, which then legally we can purchase directly. Clearly, it's our experience that we do much better going out for bid directly to a variety of providers. We use that legally as a bid item, but we certainly do not rely on it for lowest price.
I was going to say. That's not the way I do my balancing of the budget. Thank you, though. I see that the NWN is the chosen
That is
provider.
correct. Yes, ma'am.
And, well, congratulations on new computers. I'll move approval.
Okay,
Second, I would like to make a
okay.
quick comment.
Second, Robert?
I will say, as someone who used to sell on state contract, that's also the price you could buy one off. So
You made a good point.
oftentimes, if you were buying how many?
In this case, it's 130.
Yeah, whereas the state contract, you can buy one or 100. So oftentimes, it's a good price for one, but not for large quantities. Is there a brand name for these? Are these-
NWN, what we have bid is Hewlett-Packard
It's HP.
computers,
Okay.
yes.
All right, thank you.
Councilmember Burke?
You know, in the past, I have spoken about citizens not having computers. I've had long conversations with the city manager. If we want all of them to know what we're doing, they do need them. Do you have any computers that you're not using when you buy the new ones? Do you give the old ones away?
Recently, we are reusing most of the computers in, within the city. But our conduit for providing surplus computers has been to Goodwill most recently. We have an arrangement with them where they refurbish the computers and then sell them at a very, very low price to the public.
Thank you. I don't know, Mr. City Manager, if you would be able to find out in the homes how many people actually have computers and how many of them don't have computers. As you know, at one time, Ladera Crest up there, they had someone furnishing it, but that contract is no longer in use. So, not now, Madam Chair, but maybe the city manager can come in, someone can find. Because if we don't have internet for some of them, how can they communicate? I'm finding out also, I believe the city manager, Mr. Page, has given me how many people may have Channel 13, the government channel. And we find quite a few folks are not using or don't have it. Some of these folks have is that thing, that little thing sitting out in the yard on top of the house called Direct?
Dish.
Dish, well, they have that and they can't get 13.
Oh, really?
So we really not, I've been walking and talking to some folks and I would say, look at TV 13. You can see it. Well, I don't have TV 13. I can't get TV 13. Yes.
Mayor?
In that regard, Councilman Burke, I saw that, I think Time Warner is actually changing that, so now you have to have a digital box in order to get cable 13 in the future, so that's going to make it even tougher.
Yes. That's correct.
That was a question too that I had, but also Dennis, can you give us some examples of how we kind of use those in other city facilities rather than to obsolete them? Are we putting them in recreation centers, or can you give us some reuse
Yeah,
examples?
I will try without being too technical.
Okay.
Some of us may remember the days of the mainframe, where you had a big computer, and you had terminals.
Right.
Well, effectively, we're doing that for some of our users. Instead of having big mainframes, we have these servers that are powerful, and the computing actually runs on the server in the data center. And we repurpose these old computers, which are just effectively like the old terminal.
Okay.
And it's working very well for a certain population of our users who just have the basic type applications.
Okay. And then to follow up on the mayor's question, we several years ago lost any kind of control over that particular industry. But is there a vehicle by which, if the citizens of this community were in opposition to Time Warner's change, is there something that
The vehicle is the state,
is the state?
yes.
Okay. Could we perhaps list the information on our, this is going to sound like circular logic, on our website, that we could, or TV 13, that would give
Contact
them,
information.
yeah,
We can do
because that used to be just part of the basic cable package, and then as Councilmember Burke says, the more direct TV or dish network, that's not included in that apparently anymore.
No.
And that, you know, that's a good resource for citizens. So if we could make that information available, I'd appreciate it. Councilmember Burke?
Yes, I didn't ever pay any TV on my bill in my home. Was the utilities, the water bill dropped out of my check. And I didn't realize how expensive that cable is. People dealing with cable is awfully expensive. But I was going to ask another question, Madam Chair, concerning the computers. You asked about the recreation. Mr. City Manager, would you please have the recreation people to let us know how many TVs are actually in the recreation centers and how are they using them? Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? We have a motion and a second. Robert?
Don't we still control Channel 6? I know it's C-SPAN, but isn't that our old cat TV channel?
Was PEG, wasn't it?
It's a public access channel. We don't control it. Again, the state franchise, which the cable companies operate under, have an obligation to provide a public access channel, but no funding for the channel.
I
And
guess I'm asking, could we televise this on Channel 6 instead of 13? Would that help?
I will look into it. I know the answer, my guess is that it also is being moved to the digital tier,
Okay.
but I don't know that for certain.
I'm kind of like Mr. Burke, I don't want to know what my cable bill is, so.
Okay, any more questions or comments? If not, what's the pleasure? We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That carries unanimously. Thank you. With that, we will, Dennis, thank you. We will return to the general agenda, G1.
Police District's cost update.
Mr. Turner?
Madam Chairman, members of the committee, the Public Safety Committee has been talking about police districts for several months.
Can you join us? Is anybody else having difficulty in hearing him? Because Mr. Turner's so soft-spoken.
Indeed.
There's a big stick, soft spoken voice.
Certainly. So the Public Safety Committee has been talking about police districts and the condition of the Public Safety Center for a number of months, in fact, several years. And one of the things that was requested was that we bring back some information on the cost, or at least cost estimates, for what police districts would cost us. Also, the committee had approved certain areas of the city within the districts for location identification by city staff. And those are indicated on your map on page 5 in the slightly shaded area. They are around the North Point University Parkway area, the Waughtown Street Reynolds Park area, and the Jonestown Haynes Mall Boulevard area. The staff in our engineering/real estate office looked at these areas that the Public Safety Committee had approved and came up with rough cost estimates for how much it would take in order to build a facility, well, first acquire the property in these areas, a piece of property in each area, and then construct a police district. And you'll see on page 7 and 8 that we estimate about $3.9 million for the West District, which is around the Jonestown Road area, about $3.4 million for the North area, which is around North Point Boulevard, and for the Waughtown Street area, or Reynolds Park Waughtown Street area, there's several options in the range of $850,000 to $1.5 million. Now, I should explain that for that particular district, there has been a lot of discussion by the Public Safety Committee about the Lucia site on Waughtown Street. In fact, the committee has given preliminary approval for that site pending financial information. So what we wanted to provide you is some financial information that goes over some options that have been discussed. Initially, we were discussing a pure lease. The committee asked if we go back and look at how much a purchase would be and also how much a shorter-term lease would be. The initial lease we discussed was 10 years, so you'll see that information on page 7. But it ranges from $835,000 up to $1.5 million. The cost variations for the other two districts are primarily associated with the cost of the land, but these are preliminary values at this point, and you can see they assume a rough construction cost for the building of about $2.5 million, and of course we include contingency. In your package, there are two things. There are these financial information pieces, as well as a resolution, well, also a summary of what's gone on so far, but also a resolution for the full council to consider to endorse the decision processes that the Public Safety Committee has gone through. And essentially, if the council is amenable, it would call, the resolution would then adopt the study areas and would also endorse the Lucia site as the preferred area for the Waughtown Reynolds Park Boulevard District Station. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Molly?
So the thought is that what now operates out of the public safety building would be split into three, so that the administration and the personnel and everything would move out to these substations.
Not exactly. The field operation components that operate out of the Public Safety Center, the patrol staff and their support administration at that level, their direct support, would operate out of the districts. But the major administration of the police department would stay in the Public Safety Center after it's renovated. But obviously, the center needs major renovation, as we've talked about in Public Safety Committee. And this plan, districts, would accommodate moving out approximately half of the staff, making the renovation a simpler process.
Yeah, yeah, okay. And so it would be like captains and below of the,
Probably need to look at Mr. Page to get you ranking, but it would certainly be sergeants and below that would be at the field offices.
Captains and below would be in the district. So you have a captain over each district.
Yeah.
So that captain, their lieutenants, and their chain would all move to that district.
all right, thank you.
I certainly think the time to look at this is when we're looking to do a major renovation downtown. So timing is working out well. To me, there are a lot of other questions that I'm going to have. And one is the ongoing delta in operating costs. So, you know, we're heating and cooling 3 or 4 more buildings than we were in the past. Are you going to have additional personnel because you're manning, well, this would maybe not be the case, but a receptionist desk or something like that where you're having to duplicate things that are there. And then I guess the bigger question is, and this, I think it probably needs to be left for a couple of weeks till we see who's going to be sitting here next, but to me, I would anticipate the new council, because I think they normally have a strategic plan meeting to start it off. I think you're talking enough dollars here that you're going to have to be talking about some type of bond referendum or something. Now, obviously, you wouldn't do everything at once. I'm seeing the Beatty building upfit, for example, wouldn't necessarily had to do it at the same time, I don't think, but I don't know. But I think we need to really get our hands around this whole thing, and I think we're talking 25, 30 million bucks for all this.
25 million. right.
25, that we got to figure out where the money's coming from before we go too far along in making commitments on real estate and things of that sort. Yeah, I thought about this, you know, a real small town, obviously it makes sense to have one central one. In a big city, New York or Chicago would have dozens and dozens of them. But I do think we're probably a big enough city that it makes sense to start having district offices. And as I said, I think this is a good time to do it when you're getting ready to do a major renovation. I just think we need to think through and be sure we have what it's going to cost, not only for construction, but ongoing, and then where the money's going to come from. And it'd probably be phased in, I guess, over time. But those are the type of questions I would have. I don't expect you to answer all those at once, but just things to think about.
Certainly.
Did you have a comment, Mayor?
Thank you, Councilmember. I've been looking at city government for 4 years, I want to admit, and so I initially had reservations about the district concept, but the more I think about it and then talk through it, I think it's, as Robert said, I think it's the right time to do this. And my understanding is that by doing it this way, we can likely save a considerable amount of dollars, particularly as we don't have to make the public safety center seismic proof, which will save big dollars. So I think this is the right thing to do, and we will have to include it into our capital analysis going forward, and have to probably get the voters to help us with the bond issue at some point to do things like this and others. But I think it's a good time and something we should move towards.
Councilmember Burke?
I was going to say, I'm holding mine until we get, it's coming to the Public Safety Committee, and I'll be having more discussion.
Okay. Jay?
Thank you, Madam Chair. We've had lots of discussion about this in public safety, as it was mentioned. As my two colleagues on my right have also mentioned, I think it is the appropriate time to move forward with the district office concept for a couple of reasons. One, we need to renovate the public safety center, but two, we have to keep in mind that, there is a real need for safety, improving on police response times, and just that overall community presence. My suggestion to the Public Safety Committee and to this committee would be just to look at the numbers. We've been presented the numbers here today, and I think I heard some numbers equaling about $25 million. And we may have to look at a bond referendum. However, we've been talking about the Lucia site. It would be my suggestion to move forward as a public-private, well, let me say a pilot program, in essence, while we just kind of work out the bugs on the rest of the district offices. But it makes sense, as I've said before, we've got a shovel-ready project ready to go in the Southeast Ward to the Chia building, and it makes sense to me to move forward as a pilot program.
Councilmember Burke and then, I believe.
I was just going to say, with the diversity in that area, this could be a pilot program, and it would help the others if we decide that's which direction we go.
Holly?
Tell me a little bit about the Lucia site. It's a huge building, isn't it? Would we use all of it?
No, ma'am.
No.
We would only be using the building that faces onto Waughtown Street and the parking behind it for the district station. As you say, it's a large complex of multiple buildings, but we would only be using the one.
And do what with the other if presumably we
We would
buy?
only be buying the portion we use.
We would only be buying part of it.
Correct.
Madam Chair, if I may. In the Southeast Ward area, the Southeast area plan that we just approved, it called for some marketplace type of concepts at the larger Nissan Wagon Works facility. So I guess as an anchor, we would want to put the district police office in the front, but use that as a catalyst to redevelop the entire area, which sits off of Walltown and helps to build economic development for that area and the Morningside community, which circles
Right.
all around. And it actually backs up to the Quarry Park as well.
Uh-huh. Councilmember Hatton?
Thank you. To Councilmember Taylor's credit and all of the rest of us, we've been discussing this quite a while. And I know it seems like, as they say, that some folks would perceive we're dragging our feet. I'm just saying we're being methodical. I think, and you've probably already said this, I feel as though the first district, as we move forward, should go in the Southeast Ward. Again, I think we need to go where the data tells us to go. If a district or area's crime is, very high, or the numbers tell us that, I think we need to look at that way. I think we need to go ahead and try to move on this. Again, it sends a positive statement of action to the citizens of Winston-Salem. The size of our city surely mandates that we should have districts by now that even our citizens can identify. If Durham and some of the other smaller towns have them, and they've had them a while, I think we need to move forward on this.
Let's just, sure.
I'm on the map page, page 5. And by the way, I cannot read that writing, it's so small, so I'm not even gonna try, but
You don't have glasses?
I see 3 circles. One of them is about at 9 o'clock, it's a little light purple circle, that's the Jonestown, Stratford area, whatever, that's one, and then I'm going up to around 11 o'clock, there's a light green one, and there's one up there, and then one about 4 o'clock, which is kind of light beige, that's the one we're talking about.
That's correct.
Now, is there not a 4th building where we're gonna put all the
SOD.
other stuff?
The Sort Building
Sort,
on
yeah.
Polo Road, that is correct. That is another facility that the council approved the usage of, and we are currently evaluating how it would be used by the police department. So we don't have cost estimates on that yet.
But that's not a district building, that's to house some unique equipment and
The
things like that.
plan for that is for Special Operations Division
Yeah.
to be housed there, not a district.
Okay, but it would be a 4th circle somewhere on here would be a,
It would be a 4th of the small red circles that you see, which are the other facilities, public safety facilities, or potential public safety facilities. The large, roughly nickel-size circles that you were alluding to earlier are where the districts would be.
So we're talking about a total of 4 buildings plus the main building plus the Beatty building.
Right.
Yes.
So we're talking about 5 buildings.
Yes.
Currently, we have 2 or 3.
3.
3, okay. And this, I'm referring to this 4th building, the special ops building. Would it be incorporated into one of these, or would it be would it be a 4th building?
Special ops?
Would you not incorporate it in one of the 3 districts? So maybe there would be some savings there. I mean, I'm just asking, I don't know.
It's not something we've proposed, but we'll take a look at it.
Okay. But it's a manned facility, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And that you just haven't decided where we're gonna put it yet?
SOD, we plan to put at the sort facility, just don't have a plan for how it's going to be refitted yet.
And which building is that?
The sort.
The sort facility on Polo Road.
The one that Baptist just gave us?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, all right. Makes sense, okay. And it's somewhat between the 2 circles at
That's correct.
purple and the green one? Okay. Thank you, that's all.
Molly?
Oh, thank you. What, if I'm reading this correctly, Phillips Building on Church Street? What?
Molly, could
That's
it,
the,
oh,
I'm sorry.
perhaps we could ask Greg, the red dots,
Yeah.
could we identify those? Because if I'm counting correctly, that says we currently have, well, under the new proposal for new locations and what we currently have, there would be 12 public safety facilities plus the option of 1 additional in the sort building. And then could you tell us where those, or
The
what
red
those
dots
red dots
indicate-
represent?
sure, the red dots indicate properties that the city either owns or has looked at.
Okay.
And so you have the airport firing range is the northernmost red dot.
Okay,
You have the Al Beatty Public Safety Training Facility on Patterson. You have the Public Safety Center itself on Cherry Street.
okay.
You have the downtown bike patrol offices on Cherry Street. The Phillips Building, which is the county facility that we talked about, but the council decided to go a different direction rather than pursuing that piece of property.
Okay.
The Winston Mutual Building that the council has the council has approved a lease on. The Flock Bonson facility on Lowry Street, which the city purchased and is planning to use for primarily public works functions, but has the potential of providing space for some police services. And then the Thomas Smothers U.S. Army Reserve Center on Martin Luther King Jr. Drive across from the stadium, which will revert to city ownership in 2014. And finally, the Lucia site, which we indicated with a red circle because of the discussions about the potential lease. So that's what the red dots indicate, properties that city either owns or has been in serious negotiations about.
Thank you. Does that help?
Thank you.
Okay.
And yes, I could barely read them as well.
So I think Greg can help me if, what we're being asked to do today, and there's been lots of discussion, some discussion about perhaps packaging it and looking at a bond to meet the almost $25 million worth of need as has been identified in the draft report. Then the other is a resolution approving 3 areas of the police or the city for possible police districts. And then an additional one is some sort of support to move forward with the Lucia property. But within that kind of silo, there's 3 options. Is that right?
That's correct.
So we need to do 1, 2, 3.
Clarification, it's really just items 2 and 3 in your initial list that council's being asked to consider, and those are consideration of approval of the areas, the 3 areas,
Okay,
and consideration of a resolution of support for the Lucia site for the Waughtown Street Reynolds Park area district. Those
And
are the
not-
only 2 things in your resolution.
I'm sorry.
This resolution does not commit the council to expend additional funds or to expend money for the purchase or renovation or construction of stations.
okay. So the different options for Lucia are not even being considered.
Not yet.
That
It's
is
just an
not,
FYI.
that is
Okay.
correct. This is information on the financials that the Finance Committee requested.
Okay. Can I just ask, where are we in, where are y'all? In kind of the next schedule for bonds or two-thirds, just as general information on realizing that each new council typically does a strategic plan. That would be February or March
Yep.
typically.
We'll probably try to kick something off late January, early February,
Okay.
the strategic plan, and then if the council wants to proceed with a potential November 14 bond referendum, we'll have to get to work very quickly, because as you know, there are many, many items on the list of potential bond referendum projects.
Okay. So 2014 would be the earliest. Okay. What's the pleasure of the committee on this item? Again, it's two parts. Approving the location, possible locations, and supporting proceeding with the Lucia facility site for that. What's the pleasure of the committee?
I'm going to move the possible sites and the Lucia. Oh, I put that ink on that.
Okay. We have a motion in support of the resolution, the
Yes.
two-part resolution.
Yes.
Okay, is there a second? Second. Absolutely.
I have no trouble with the general support of the concept of looking at this. I'm a little concerned about picking a particular facility, given that, I guess my job here is always to look at the beans and the bottom line, but we've added fixed costs by taking on the mutual building. The airport firing range is a new facility we've added. And I just think we need to be sure we add it all up and be sure we're not adding too much ongoing fixed cost. Bottom line, I'd rather spend money for boots on the ground than I would for brick and mortar, meaning patrol officers versus office space. Having said that, I think conceptually, I think the idea of districts makes sense given the size of the city now and the fact that we're getting ready to renovate a building. If we'd already renovated the downtown building, I don't think it would make sense. But I do think we're at a very strategic place to do it. But I think we need a lot of numbers, and I don't think we're certainly dragging our feet. We've certainly done a lot in this area. Again, as I said, we've done something in the building and at the firing range. But I just think we need to have it all wrapped up tight. Well, this is what it's roughly going to cost. These are the ongoing cost savings, whatever it's going to be, doing it versus not doing it. So anyway, I'll probably abstain on the motion, but that's where I'm coming from.
And I just need clarification because the resolution, as I read it, says that we, if this is approved, that we would be approving the Lucia facility site for District 200 station.
That's correct.
Okay.
But
Absent the
not-
funding for
But
it.
not committing the fund.
Have to still come back with either a lease or a purchase. So yeah, without funding, it's non-binding.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the last be it further resolved that basically says the council is not committing funding at this time.
I gotta tell you, that kind of reminds me of the fence.
Of the what?
The fence, the immigration fence. It was, we approve it, but there's no money for it. Councilmember
There's a
Burke?
lot of that going around.
Also, at the last meetings, I did hear that we talked about purchase was important over leasing, because I think taxpayers would better see us own something than to continue to pay rent. So that would be a serious consideration and a serious thought when I get ready to vote, whether we're going to lease or purchase.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any more questions or comments? All those in favor, please say aye. 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 Any opposed? None. Any abstaining? So 3 in favor, none opposed, 1 abstaining. Okay, thank you.
And Madam, and I think one thing they need to understand, when we leave here, we're not talking, we'll come back to talk about the finance. That's what the taxpayer needs to understand, and we'll be making a decision, but this is giving them the opportunity to move forward.
Absolutely. Absolutely. James?
I just wanted to state for the record, and I know this committee is always cognizant about how we spend money as a city, and that's very important. But, if you look at the dots on this map, I mean, there are no actual dots in the southeastern or the southern part of the city. And, you know, we've got taxpayers who pay taxes just like everybody else all over the city, and they want the same level of police protection and response time. So we got to weigh it against finances. But I know plenty of people in the southern part and the southeastern part and even the eastern part of the city that pay taxes, and they're willing to pay taxes in order to have this type of police protection in their backyard. I just want to keep that out in front of this committee.
Okay.
I know I'm a taxpayer, and I don't mind us spending money on it.
Okay, thank you. Any more comments on this item? Would the committee members indulge the chair for a moment? Tomorrow is an important day. So I've always been an advocate, one of my favorite sayings is decisions are made by those that show up. Big decisions are made tomorrow, and they will be determined by those that show up. So vote your conscience. If you believe in the Chicago style of vote early, vote often. But please, your vote is invaluable to the way your city government is run. So with that, is there anything else for the good of the cause?
Madam, I've been out talking with folks today, and we still have people don't understand tomorrow is a primary. No matter how much we've been out, the mayor and efforts, and Mr. Taylor here, Mr. Clark, and Ms. Light, and you've been sitting on the back seat because you didn't have to. But your husband's been out.
Yes, ma'am, he has.
And, but the thing, I think, as people have these forums, we still have our cheerleaders with us. Very few other folks come to them. So the public awareness, that's so important for us to know. And if we would start through the schools, they're the best ones to carry the message to children. If you want something to be known, you tell the school children, and they go home and tell their parents. But it is on the 10th. Some people think they're supposed to vote in November. They don't realize how important the primary is. That primary determines what's going to happen in November. Thank you, madam.
Well, I can get all squishy about voting and remembering the first time I walked into my little neighborhood polling place and saw my name on the ballot. I think everybody should get squishy about the opportunity to vote. And with what we have going on in the world right now, there's very little impact that we could have on that, but we can have a tremendous impact on whether our garbage is picked up regularly, whether we've got a 2-minute response or a 20-minute response. And I just can't say enough about it is the responsibility of each and every one of us to vote. And with that, I will recognize Vice Chair Light.
I'll tell a story on myself. I am still pouting about the fact that in my life, I missed voting in one primary. Well, all the elections, I only missed voting one, and I still am mad at myself for that, so get out and vote.
Any other questions or comments? If not, quickly, meeting adjourned. Thank you.